YouTube is the long game, probably more than any other platform. If you're interested in creating long form style content, long form is the long game. So I would encourage anybody who has an interest in it to get involved in it. If you just even secure your name on the platform and start repurposing your short form content as you prepare, but there's never a better time to start than now. Welcome back to the Med Creator 101 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dustin Portela, board-certified dermatologist, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Mimi Banks, founder of MB Social. Mimi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. So usually when we do these podcasts, we do a little rapid fire on me or on another guest, but I thought we'd turn the tables today and give the audience a chance to get to know you a little bit with some rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
For the first question, what is your favorite store?
My favorite store, much to my husband's chagrin, but I love a pharmacy.
Okay.
Specifically a French pharmacy, but I could spend hours in like a CVS.
Really?
I love a CVS.
They're not quite the French pharmacy. That's a whole different experience.
Not quite the French pharmacy, but it's as close as we're going to get.
I learned a fun fact about pharmacies like Walgreens and CVS, things like that, how they popped up to have so many different items. Because back in the days when most businesses would close on Sunday, and even there were some jurisdictions that outlawed businesses from opening on Sundays. So there were many businesses that had to be closed, including grocery stores. But pharmacies were permitted to be open because if people needed to get medication. And so the pharmacies realized this was a loophole and they started selling all sorts of other stuff so that they started getting basic groceries, milk, eggs, all the different things because they were permitted to be open on Sundays back when many businesses were required to close.
I had no idea. When I travel, I love to go into a pharmacy. My husband likes a grocery store. And I think more so in the US, they definitely have groceries. Like a CVS will have like a full shopping experience. You can get lunch, you can get your Band-Aids, you can get products, you can get whatever you need.
Now, our listeners may not know that you are fluent in French. And so I wanted to ask, what is your favorite word in another language? And I'm presuming that it is French, but it may not be.
I think the word oui is very universal. It means yes. People use it in English. One of our clients, Lancome, actually uses that as part of their community management. But I think it's a fun word. I think it translates across anybody globally knows oui.
Everybody knows it, yeah. My daughter is taking French in high school right now, so she says it all the time.
Does she really? Oh,
Yeah.
That's so cute.
So what is your favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert that I actually had recently, which is super random. Actually, it's two parts. The first I would say is vanilla soft serve all day long. And the second, which is really random but reminiscent of my childhood, is pineapple upside down cake.
Those are very moist.
So good. Like a Duncan Hines box, really good.
Okay. And then the last question that we have for you today is, what is your favorite breakfast? If your amazing chef of a husband was going to bring you breakfast in bed, what is it going to be?
So my amazing husband knows I like to keep it simple, and I love some egg whites with spinach and feta.
Solid choice. So today we're here to talk about YouTube. YouTube has been a very different game in social media. You know, in some ways it has become TikTokified, as many platforms have, but it still maintains its own personality and culture because the main idea of YouTube is still that long form video format.
And you know, it's interesting. The mega social media or the real OG influencers are those like Mr. Beast who have like hundreds of millions of subscribers. In the child world, you have Ms. Rachel, who is exploding with billions of views. People like me who just leave it on for their kids. And there is something special about YouTube that's very different than Instagram, TikTok. I would love to just spend some time learning more about it, starting with like why you started, how YouTube is different specifically, because I think it's worthwhile looking at the content. And then just each step of the way, what it takes to kind of upload, keep up with the content creation. And then what we talked about a little bit with Dr. Brown is the monetization.
Yeah, YouTube is something that I wanted to be on much earlier than I was. And this goes back to some of our original conversations early on in the podcast, where the idea is you just need to start. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to start. And I didn't necessarily take my own advice on that. So I was filming TikToks and Instagrams on my phone. And, you know, I didn't yet purchase like a video camera, DSLR, anything like that. And I was waiting until I had better lighting and a better camera, trying to find the right microphone, all these different things. And then also knowing that YouTube, my goal on there would be more of the long form content. And I just didn't have a process down for writing scripts and how I was going to upload. And I felt like I didn't have the bandwidth personally, the time commitment that it would take to make the thumbnails. That's an entirely different skill that's different than creating TikTok or an Instagram reel. And so I got on YouTube a little later. I was into my social media journey by a couple of years when I started my channel. And that was back when all of my handles were still under 208 Skin Doc. So ultimately, I did start the 208 Skin Doc YouTube channel, and I hired an editor who would make the thumbnails. And we created a process to record videos, upload to them. They would edit them, send them back to me so I could upload onto YouTube, put the thumbnail on there. And it was definitely a more time intensive process, even though I wasn't editing my own videos. And the long form content on YouTube, for most people, I will say there's still those cases of overnight virality where people start a channel and they just go crazy from the very beginning.
That happens on YouTube?
It can happen on YouTube. There's some creators that really just strike gold from the very beginning, but they're usually doing something quite unique. And most of the content that I was producing early on was just the talking head videos. It was similar education style that I would be doing on a TikTok or a reel, but just much more in depth, filling up 8 to 15 minutes of time. And what I found is that it was a lot harder to get traction on YouTube. There's so many channels on there. There's a lot of eyeballs to watch content, but ultimately it takes a little while for the algorithm to just understand what kind of content you're producing and who to serve that to. Obviously, the algorithm is always trying to find the ideal viewer for you. But until you've uploaded, I've heard advice online of, 50 to 100 videos, the algorithm isn't really figuring you out and matching you up with the right viewers yet. So you should expect in long form content for a little bit longer time to start to see virality. Whereas, especially in the early days of TikTok, if you posted videos consistently for a month, something was going to go viral. It was almost guaranteed.
So let's go back for a second. So, in order to be on YouTube, and you're talking about long form videos, you mentioned 8 to 15 minutes. Is that the average length? Do you recommend that videos should be minimum 8 minutes? What does long form look like?
Yeah, if you're doing long form video, this is going to be horizontal rather than vertical, which we're used to on TikTok and Instagram Reels. This is advice that I've seen in many places on, YouTube gurus and all those things. Part of the reason that you want to do at least 8 minutes is if you are ultimately wanting to monetize on YouTube with AdSense, which is Google's monetization program, when you click on a video, they usually will play an ad before the video. But if your video is over 8 minutes, they will usually insert another ad midway through your video. But if your video is under 8 minutes, they don't do mid-roll ads. So that can impact your monetization. I still have posted plenty of videos that are under 8 minutes because I got my point across more quickly. But for building an audience, giving people something that they want to stick around for, if you can keep them engaged for greater than 8 minutes, and I've heard 12 minutes is kind of a sweet spot, but content will differ widely. We heard from Dr. Brown last week that her YouTube videos will sometimes be 25 minutes long. So there's a wide range. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I've just always focused on that 8 to 15 minute time window to capture attention, reach full monetization when it's available, and just build an audience there on YouTube.
Okay, so the second thing you just talked about beforehand is the thumbnail. So I didn't know that that's a thing. What is the thumbnail that takes somebody else to do it?
To build a thumbnail, again, there's different strategies on this, but most people will build a thumbnail and put a lot of thought into the thumbnail and the title. Because when you are scrolling on YouTube, whether it's on your phone or on a desktop, you are going to be seeing a ton of thumbnails pop up. And this is just the picture that represents what the video is about. And you want the thumbnail, this is like your hook. You still need a hook at the beginning of the video, but until somebody starts watching your video, this is what they're going to be exposed to as to what this video is about. And you want something on that thumbnail and in your title to resonate with people and capture their attention. And it's commonly referred to as the packaging of the video. So you have the video, and then the packaging is going to include what your title is and what your thumbnail looks like. And the professionals on YouTube that are making a full-time living out of this, whether they're creating their own thumbnails, whether they're having somebody else do them, they're often testing multiple versions of a thumbnail. They're going to create 3 to 6 versions of a thumbnail. And recently, YouTube rolled out a feature where you can upload up to 3 thumbnails for the same video, and it will show those thumbnails to different audiences. And then it will find which one is converting better. And after a week or two, it will set the best performing thumbnail as the thumbnail for everybody. Prior to that, there were tools like TubeBuddy, which is an extension you can put on your Chrome browser that would give access to your YouTube channel. And they would go in and change the thumbnail like every other day, and they would test and see which one is converting better.
Okay, so you want to make sure you get your thumbnail. That's the hook. The second part is the title. So YouTube is a search engine of itself. People look for DIY, they look for how to, they look for education. So, how do you figure out, I guess, two parts of it? One, the content that is deserving of long form, and two, then how you get to that title that also is going to be searchable, that also has the hook that goes with the thumbnail.
There's a few tools that you can use for that. Some people will say you need to start with the thumbnail and then build a video around that. It's important that whatever you put in the title and the thumbnail, that you deliver on that in the video. And so if I were going to do a video about psoriasis, for example, and then I put a picture of Kim Kardashian on my thumbnail, then I better be talking about Kim Kardashian's psoriasis treatment or something like that. But if I just put a celebrity on the thumbnail, and then I don't even really talk about that celebrity, if I don't deliver on that, probably in the first 30 seconds to a minute of the video, people are going to scroll away. You want to fulfill the promise early in the video, even if you're just teasing it and then addressing it later. But you don't want to give people clickbait. You don't want people to see that they're going to get something and then they get 30 seconds into the video and they're like, I don't think that's what this is about, because then they're going to scroll away. And that will be a signal to the YouTube algorithm that, hey, people are clicking on this video at really high rates, but nobody's watching more than 30 seconds. So the video's probably not that good. We're not going to keep showing it to a bunch of people.
And so, what's a good completion rate? Obviously, 100%, but on average, do you know how long people are spending on videos?
Yeah, so every video can be different, and YouTube is probably the best platform when it comes to analytics to really drill down. You can get very deep into the analytics. Every single video, you can see the retention curve, how long people are sticking around on your video, where they are falling off. And you can go to your video and you can see, all right, this is where I'm losing 30% of my viewers. Is there something that I'm doing here that I should try to avoid in future videos? Am I getting too long-winded? Am I not putting graphics on the screen where I need to? So you can see that. You can compare video to video. You can do, this time last year versus now. So there's a lot of different analytics that you can do to see how many people are seeing your thumbnail. You can see the impressions. How many people that see your thumbnail are then clicking on the video to watch it? How many people are watching the video for how long? The analytics on YouTube are crazy.
Amazing. And so, do you actually watch the analytics for each video, or do you have your editor or somebody to just constantly make sure that you're optimizing each video?
Yeah, at this point, I have a social media team. So I have a, executive assistant and I have a social media intern. And on a quarterly basis, we do a breakdown of the YouTube channels where we're going back, we're seeing which content performed the best, try to figure out why it performed the best, which content maybe underperformed what we expected, and what we can do to change that in the future. I do spend time each week browsing the analytics so that I see how things are performing in the first week of the video and kind of get an idea. Did this thumbnail perform how we wanted it to? Are we getting a high click-through rate? If I get a click-through rate that's 7 to 12%, I think that's great. And if I see a thumbnail that's getting a click-through rate of 2%, then I'll go back to my editor and say, hey, let's get a couple more versions of this thumbnail and see if we can get some more click-through. So it is something that you can go back and change anytime. You can change the title, you can change the thumbnail, even if the video's been up for years.
That's actually a very good tip. And so, would you say, how long do you think a video needs to be up to be able to start seeing some traction? Because it does take time for people to find you. It does take time to build up that repository or for people to go back. Because unlike Instagram or TikTok, where it's very much in your feed, YouTube is a little bit different.
Yeah, YouTube is different. So when you structure your video, your title, your thumbnail, especially early on in your journey, you want to try to do that in terms that people are searching for. So if you wanted to talk about rosacea, I did a video over a year ago called How to Fix a Red Face. And initially, That YouTube channel hadn't been up that long. It did not get a ton of views, but I felt that that was a term that somebody might go to YouTube and search for if they've got a red face, how to fix that. And I just checked before we started recording today, and that video now has, I think, 75 or 80,000 views. But in the first even month or two, it really didn't perform that well. But as the YouTube algorithm has kind of figured out who's watching my content, and as people search for certain terms, that video is going to pop up more. And so you want your video titles and the description to be the kinds of things that people are searching for. And I learned this the hard way because some of my early videos that I did on YouTube, I was taking people into Ulta, I was taking people into Sephora and going shopping with them. And the title would be like, Shopping with a Dermatologist. Well, nobody is searching for videos called Shopping with a Dermatologist. So those did not perform very well. But we could go back and say, Building a skincare routine for acne. And the video delivers on that promise. And then we start to see better views on that video. So it's kind of, there's a lot of opportunity to learn on YouTube.
Can you go back and change the title?
Yep, you can change the title.
And so now if somebody is starting and they want to start publishing videos, how many would you say that they should publish a week?
So it's not so important how many you publish a week on YouTube, but it's more about being consistent. So you should commit to a cadence that you can stick with, that your audience can begin to depend on. And this can be, it can vary widely. So I have chosen to do one video a week. Now that I've launched my other podcast, not this one, but Skinfluence, we're also publishing a video episode of that podcast once a week. And so now I've got 2 videos a week coming out. And that works for me in my workflow with my editor and with my team. But you have guys like Mr. Beast, for example, Mark Rober, 2 of the biggest YouTubers. Mark Rober might do 4 to 6 videos a year because his videos take so much time, but they are perfected when they get published. His audience knows that at a certain cadence, he's going to be coming out with a new video. Mr. Beast doesn't release a new video every week because his are such big productions, but he's cultivated an audience that will watch and just eat those videos up. So if you're just starting out on YouTube, I think that it's great if you can do 2 videos a month, 1 video a week. I like that cadence. I think it's a good idea to do that because you're going to get those videos up over the course of 1 year. That's going to help to insert you into the algorithm. And if you're consistently publishing 1 video every 6 months, then it's going to be really hard to get traction and get an audience that will come to you, even if that is your consistent cadence. So I love the 1 video a week idea. 2 videos a month would probably be adequate if you're just starting out, but I wouldn't do 1 video a month if you can avoid it.
And so when you're publishing that, is it okay on YouTube to be more raw? Or you mentioned an editor. Should they all be highly edited?
This is another area where I think YouTube is changing. Now, for a long time, we were in that phase with YouTube where most creators were going for that really polished, highly edited look. Everybody's trying to mimic Mr. Beast, where he never keeps the same camera shot for more than about a second and a half. He's shifting to different views and they're showing different people and they're always moving. They're always trying to keep your attention by you never know what they're going to show you next. But there has been a transition over the last year of YouTube where people are maybe getting a little fatigued with this highly edited type of content, not necessarily from Mr. Beast, but probably from everybody trying to emulate him. And the creator that a lot of people point to for kind of leading this revolution is a young bodybuilder named Sam Sulek. Sam Sulek is maybe 20 years old at this point, and he does 45-minute YouTube videos almost every day that will follow him around the gym to the grocery store where he's buying the food that he's going to eat, just him talking in his car. And he is just talking to the camera. He is not doing any fancy editing. There's no text on screen, but it's raw, it's authentic. And he's not even creating a thumbnail. He's just taking a clip from his video that has him and he's putting a title on there. So it's just a picture of him from the video, a title about that day's vlog. And those videos have performed really well. In about a year's time, he gained over 2 million subscribers on YouTube.
My benchmark, I tell you, is Miss Rachel, because in our household, I have an 18-month-old. And so we're constantly putting on YouTube. and you can see what engages her, what doesn't engage her. And we really want to only have educational material. She watches Miss Rachel, and she also watches a version of Miss Rachel in Spanish. And to look at the production quality or why Miss Rachel specifically engages is really fascinating. The use of color, the use of visual, the use of words and text on screen, and the power of the video to engage. And engagement is a little bit different on YouTube in general. We're used to like likes, comments, shares. YouTube, it's about subscribers. So I feel like subscribers are an extra way to even show that you're invested because it's not just engaging on the video, but saying, hey, I want more content from you. Almost like this podcast. It's a good plug to say, make sure to subscribe. But how did you get almost 2 million subscribers?
So I have two YouTube channels just for the listeners. The 208 Skin Doc channel, I started that with the goal of doing the long form content. After about a year of being on YouTube, YouTube introduced YouTube Shorts, where you could then do TikTok style videos in a vertical format. And I started taking my old TikTok videos and posting them to YouTube. And many of them started to go viral and they cultivated millions of views. I hit the monetization program and things were going really well. But what I noticed is before I did shorts, my content was not really excelling. I wasn't getting tons of subscribers. I wasn't getting millions of views on my videos. And then I started posting shorts and I got 100,000 subscribers in under a month. But I also noticed that it radically shifted the demographics of my subscribers. So initially, my subscribers, even though there weren't tons of them, were kind of middle-aged, predominantly women who, were interested in skincare. They were interested in finding the stuff that they needed for their teenagers. And then when I started posting the reaction content and some of the stuff that I had been putting on TikTok, the demographics shifted to a younger demographic and more male dominant. And so what I became fearful of is that if I post these long form videos and my subscribers are primarily people that came here for the short form content who are younger and male, my long form content is probably not going to resonate with them. And there was early on in YouTube, when they introduced shorts, they didn't really have a great way to take people who were viewing you for your short form content and getting them to become long form viewers. And so there was a lot of criticism of YouTube, the way their algorithm was working, how people who started posting shorts noticed that they just weren't getting any views on their long form content anymore. So at that point, I decided that I was going to take that 208 Skin Doc channel and just use it for primarily short form content. A lot of it was reaction based because that's what the audience had come to expect. And then I started a separate YouTube channel called the Dr. Dustin Portella channel, which was going to be the education channel. We again started with only long form content. And then when we introduced shorts on that channel, we did no reaction based content. They were educational shorts that would serve the same type of audience that I was cultivating with my long form content. And so when you look at the demographics of the Dr. Dustin Portella channel, again, it is primarily middle-aged and female dominant audience. So those are the ones that are more interested in learning about skincare, health and wellness, what to do for their teenagers. And I have just recognized that they're two very different audiences that want different things. And so that's why I've maintained two channels. The short form content on the 208 Skin Doc channel goes viral very consistently. It monetizes fairly well. And then the Dr. Dustin Portella channel took me a little longer to hit that monetization threshold because I was very committed to only doing educational content, avoiding the shock value, the reaction content. And even though it took longer, we did hit that monetization goal. And the audience is growing. Over the last 6 months, we've gained over 50,000 subscribers. We are monetizing better than we ever have before. And so it's just a very different game on YouTube, and two different accounts on the same platform have wildly different results.
The last thing I actually wanted to talk about is the monetization because it's really interesting. It's very different than anything we talk about, sponsored content, partnerships, etc. It's very different than everything that we've talked about. Can you share more about what the monetization is on YouTube and how it works?
Monetization on YouTube is traditionally what's called AdSense. So Google is They are a search engine. YouTube is a search engine, but they are advertising platforms where people advertise through Google and through YouTube. And when you create video content and somebody clicks on that and they see an ad before your video, you are going to get a portion of that advertising revenue. And if I recall correctly, YouTube gives 60% of the ad revenue to the creator. They keep 40%. And so when you hit that monetization threshold, then you will start to get paid for the views that happen on your video. And if your video does millions of views, you stand the chance to make, even a few $1,000s. And so it is probably the best platform where you get paid for views. It is significantly better than TikTok. It is significantly better than Instagram. TikTok used to pay a lot better until they got so many creators that it just diluted the fund. Instagram sometimes has just completely turned off their creator monetization program. They have one in place now, but it doesn't pay out to the same degree that YouTube does. And that's, I think, owing to the long form content where people are on the platform for much longer periods of time. They can be served more ads during their viewing experience because they're not in that doom scrolling.
No, because you're there to watch content.
They're there to watch content. They're there to learn something or to be entertained for extended periods of time.
You know what's interesting? I don't think when I watch Miss Rachel that in the middle of Miss Rachel there's been ads, but some of the other ones that we watch, there are fully ads in the middle, and my daughter gets very flustered.
Yeah. So, and the creator has the option whether they want to run ads in the middle of the video. You can turn those off as a creator. When you upload a video, you can elect not to have mid-roll ads.
Fascinating. I'm so glad that we covered this topic today. I know that I learned a lot just about what YouTube is, long form versus short form versus the monetization, and really how content goes viral. Again, like we always say, the long game.
Yeah, YouTube is the long game, probably more than any other platform. If you're interested in creating long form style content, long form is the long game. So I would encourage anybody who has an interest in it to get involved in it. If you just even secure your name on the platform and start repurposing your short form content as you prepare, but there's never a better time to start than now.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you gained some valuable insight around YouTube, and we can't wait to hear your stories about YouTube, what has worked for you and what tips that you have. Drop us a comment, let us know on Instagram at MedCreator101. If you found this valuable, please share this with a friend and don't forget to subscribe.